I forgot. So to fix the credit, you need a specialist to help us to fix the credit. So today I'm going to introduce a gentleman that I know for at least 5 years. He helped our client. He helped many of our client improve their credit score. And the goal for us to provide this service is so that our client can repair the credit score, improve the credit score, so that they can come back to us to get a loan. So exactly how does credit score work? Many of us saying that, hey, the client come to us saying that, hey, I go with my bank. My bank told me that my credit score is 700. How come when you put it, your credit score is only 650? How come, someone else tells me that my credit score is good, but you tell me your credit score is so again, there's so much myth out there about credit score. So exactly what is credit score? How is that calculated? And how do we improve it? So without further ado, I'm introduce you to a very good friend of us, our Sequoia advisor, Mr. George Hartman. Mr. George Hartman, the floor is yours.
All right. Thanks, Alan. I really appreciate that and excited to be here. To see people from all over the country joining your platform is really exciting, and to provide that service is pretty incredible. So I want to take a second just to, how did I get into credit repair actually, and credit restoration or whatever you want to call it. But I come from 10 years in the mortgage business as well. So I was doing loans for a long time, and I was really specializing in subprime. So I was already working with people with credit challenges, and I love that word, challenges, versus when I would have a client that would fail credit or they didn't qualify. I like to use just the word, hey, we've got a few challenges that we need to overcome. And I started working with people with their credit. And then what honestly ended up happening was, coming from the mortgage business, I really didn't have anybody in the credit repair space that I could trust. I never saw really people going into the repair and then ever coming out of it and closing a deal from it. So in 2007, 2008, I had my own personal challenges, like so many of my clients, unbeknownst to me, and just different changes in the market. And I found myself with a subpar credit score. And coming from the mortgage business, I thought I really knew everything about credit, but I really didn't know how to fix it. So I ended up finding a company that walked me personally. I was my first client, and I share that with every client that I have and have had for the past 10 years. So I've actually been in the business for 10 years, and I really focus on the educational part of it, because nobody does. Nobody really teaches credit, and that's for a reason. That's they like us to not really know all the answers, so that we're always running in the sub below the 700 mark. That's where they start making all their money. So I really went to work on figuring out, okay, most of these credit repair companies are only working with people's negative items. Well, what about the other 4 sections of the credit report that have to do with scores? So I ended up getting my credit fixed back up, and then I started going to my mortgage company friends, and I just started telling them, hey, look, I just want to let you know that I just went through a process that took my credit scores from 595 to 711. And that happened in about a 4-month period for me. And then there was some other things that, just took time. And that's unfortunately with some of our credit issues that people have, it does just take time. So, over a couple of years' time, my scores got back up to the 800s, and I've been helping people fix their credit ever since. So what it really boils down to, guys, is as a salesperson in our industry, what separates me from the mortgage guy down the street or the other commercial lending business when it comes to our clients? I always like to say that I'm 100% committed to my clients, but I hear everybody say that. But what the reality is most salespeople in our industry are only 100% committed right up until the time somebody fails credit. Then we either don't know what to do with that person, we don't have a solution for them. And in the real estate market, it's kind of like, well, go fix your credit and come back and see me in 6 months. nobody really has a path to take somebody down. So now I want to spend a couple minutes on just credit to educate everybody on a few things that you all can look out for when you have a client that has credit challenges, and for yourself. You know, if your credit is not at a 750 or higher, I suggest hiring a professional that can help you to get your score there. So what is keeping you from getting your score to that point? Because something is, whether it's challenges in the past, it's not managing particular things. And that's why I want to spend, maybe 5 minutes or even up to 10 minutes on the 5 sections of a credit report and what to really pay attention to. What really makes the biggest differences in your credit? How do I get to a 750 or 800 to maximize my credit score? So there's 5 sections of your credit report. So let's look at each one of them very quickly. Number 1, on-time payments. People don't realize the impact of a single 30-day late payment. So a single 30-day late payment, whether it's a $6 service fee on a credit card or a $6,000 mortgage payment, it hurts you the same. 60 to 80 points will come off your score immediately. And a 30-day late payment is the most difficult reversal or removal that we have. They are very, very difficult to have reversed or removed. And here's the really sad part about it. It takes a full 24 months to recover the full 80 points. So it's pretty amazing. You get knocked down 60, you could make your on-time payments for 10 years. You miss one payment and it's a punishment for 24 months. So that's how important making on-time payments is. And it also contributes to building into those 800 credit scores, because making on-time payments for multiple years in a row is what's going to bring those higher credit scores. The second thing is credit cards. People don't realize that credit cards and credit card balances, so how many accounts you have and the balances that you're carrying, equate to over 30% of your credit score. So credit cards, people that say, oh, well, I don't have any credit cards. Well, unfortunately, that's a negative, because they want to have 3 to 5 open lines of credit. And being 30% of your credit score, how you manage those credit cards is what's going to help your score. So if you've got 3 credit cards and one of them is at $900 and it's $1,000 limit, it's probably costing you a significant amount of points, because anything over 20% of the limit is going to start costing points. So when you're looking at a client's credit report and they've got a low score, those are 2 places to look immediately. Have they had all on-time payments? And what are their credit card balances to limits? So you'll be able to advise your clients, hey, look, I see a couple of your credit cards. Do you have any extra cash flow that we can pay these credit cards off? So once the credit cards get paid off, they can see the scores start to jump again. Now, also, when it comes to credit cards, here's another great strategy to use. If you're looking at a credit report and everything kind of looks like it's in order, there's no late payments, but they might have some high credit card balances. They might only have, let's say, 2 credit cards with small limits, $500 limit, $200 limit. And those are the cards you have to be very, very careful of, because you can run you go to Costco and you can put $200 or $300 on a credit card with only a $500 limit. You could see your scores drop 50 to 60 points. So knowing this information for your clients is extremely important, so that you could put them in the best position to qualify at the highest credit score for the best interest rate. Now, with that said, on credit cards, again, I said 3 to 5 accounts is what they're looking for. So if you're looking at somebody's score and they've got a 650 or a 640 and their credit is really clean, most likely that would have to do with limited or new credit. So my first question to the client is there anybody in your family, friend, family member, aunt, uncle, grandma, or grandpa, that could add you as what's called an authorized user to their credit card. And I'm going to definitely spend a minute on this because I want you to understand this strategy because it is such a powerful one. This sometimes is the only thing you need to do to jump your score 10, 20, 30, 40 points. So what ends up happening is just like a husband and wife. If I added my girlfriend or you add your wife or husband to your credit card, that's what an authorized user is. Now, the important thing to know here is that, well, let me share it this way because it'll make more sense. When I was fixing my credit, I had 100% clear credit, no negative marks. I had 3 credit cards by this time, one small $300 card, a $750 and an $800. Those 3 credit cards, but my maximum credit score was 711. Nope, no better. That was because I didn't have the 8 to 10 years history that the bureaus are looking for to give you those high scores. So I called a friend of mine who I know is, he's very, very particular about his credit. He keeps all his credit cards paid off, and he added me to 2 credit cards. Now, I do not suggest American Express and Discover at first. Try and go with a Visa or MasterCard. He added me to a Home Depot, or no, it was a Sears, and he added me to just a regular Visa. They were $10,000 limits that he had them for 15 years or more with 0 balances. My scores, as soon as those posted to my report, my scores jumped 91 points. That's how many points it's dramatic. Now, here's the real thing to make sure that you know. Most would think that the person that has the credit cards that are adding me are at risk. Like it's their accounts, right? It's their good credit. However, with this strategy, the person with the cards has 0 liability. Because when they call, hi, I'd like to add an authorized user to my account. Yes, use my same address. Here's their information. When the card comes to them in the mail, they activate it and cut it up. I have no way to use that card. I'm not being added to their account to use their card. So I have no intention of using it. However, I get the benefit of their history added to my credit report. Now, here's the challenge with this, guys, and that's why you want to make sure whoever you're doing this with is responsible, because if they run up their balance or they make a late payment, that goes on your credit as well. So typically the authorized user strategy is a short-term strategy. So you get a client that gets turned down, they're really close. I'm talking they have to be really close. You add an authorized user, next thing you know, you might have somebody that qualifies. Now, typically, it's not going to be just a single authorized user that's going to get them there, and cleaning up the entire report is really what everybody's goal should be. So authorized user is a very, very good strategy. Now, Alan mentioned it. Let's talk about credit scores for just a minute, just to clarify a couple of things. When you're looking at credit scores, you're going to get if I applied for a mortgage this morning, a credit card at noon, I set up an Experian.com account at 4 o'clock, and I apply for a credit card at night. No, I don't suggest that for anybody, but this is just for example. Every single credit score will be different because every sector has a different algorithm for calculating risk. So if you are looking at scores online from Consumer Reports, meaning Experian.com, Credit Karma, Identity IQ, any of the credit monitoring type sites, or the ones that you get with your credit cards, those are called consumer scores. Those are going to generally be much higher than what you'll get when you run for a risk base or a mortgage. So always keep that in mind, and keep that in mind because it's something that you'll need to explain to your client. You know, if somebody says, oh, I got a Credit Karma account, excuse me, and my scores are 710, and then you run it like Alan said, and you get a 680 or 670, they're going to ask why. And that's the explanation, because every sector is different and every sector has a different algorithm for calculating the risk of that particular loan. Hopefully that makes sense. So again, you're going to get a different credit score everywhere you try to apply for a loan. But again, our goal here, regardless, is all the credit reports are the same. So if we clean up one report, it's going to affect all the credit scores across the boards. And the last thing I wanted to touch on as far as this just kind of educational section is inquiries. Now, personally, and I never did this for years and years and decades, but my credit is the most important thing in my financial life. Unfortunately, I wish I would have put that emphasis on it my whole life. I am the expert and I know what's going on with my credit before the lender does. And that's not how our society works. Typically, when they come to us, right, most of us know, people are crossing their fingers as much as we are as lenders the minute we push the button to get their credit, because they say they got great credit and we understand, you know, that's not always the case. And then you push the button and they have some challenges. So inquiries, hard inquiries, and soft inquiries. So soft inquiries are ones that don't affect your credit scores, such as a Credit Karma, Experian.com, any monitoring type site. And how I best explain this to an individual is, if you are getting something, if you are acquiring something for them running your credit, typically that's going to be a hard inquiry. And hard inquiries affect your credit score by 3 to 15 points. And it takes months to get those points back. So always be very selective on who runs your credit. And even, guys, for your clients, I'm going to give you another tip here in a minute as far as not getting an extra inquiry for your client. So if they have a Credit Karma account, if they have a, you know, some account, I'd be asking them, hey, do you have any type of consumer program? And if not, you can use mine and have them pull up a credit report. You know, like somebody that says, oh, I think my credit score is marginal. Well, guys, if it's marginal, don't run it and ding it again. Let's find out why it's marginal. And I'll give you that step here in a second on how we can get an analysis done to find out why their credit's like it is and what we can do about fixing it. So inquiries are really important. You know, you only want a few of those a year. So always be careful. And it takes 2 years to be able to actually get rid of those inquiries off your report. People think that it's really simple to get rid of inquiries, but it's actually not. And if you're working on your own credit and you're looking at your inquiries, a lot of times people will make the mistake of disputing all of their inquiries to try to get them off. And the next thing you know, they remove an American Express inquiry that was related to an American Express account. Because I've had somebody call me and say, hey, look, my American Express account went away. And I said, well, what did you do different that all of a sudden after 10 years your American Express disappeared? He goes, well, I disputed a bunch of inquiries and I never told American Express that they could check my credit. I've had the card for 10 years. Well, that's because we don't read the fine print and they check your credit once a year to make sure you're still credit worthy. So it's super important on the inquiries to make sure that you're not getting too many of those. Okay, hopefully that gave you a little bit of info to take a look at your own credit. You know, take a look at the last couple of years history. Again, if you're not at if you're not over 700 or 750, feel free to jump on this program as well. I mean, Alan and I will chat a little bit about a special fee for all the agents. I've been doing this for a long time, and when I was in California, I'll tell you what, and that's where Alan and I met, actually, was in California. But I've spoken at a lot of realtor events, and I'll tell you what, 70% of the realtors sitting in the chairs are the ones that wanted their credit fixed. You know, they wanted to lead by example. And not only that, they wanted to become experts of their own credit. So those are a few things on credit education, things like that. Now let's talk about real quick, a couple of minutes here on our program and how it works. I've been in sales all my life, and I've done a lot of things for, selling that meant people had to qualify. You had to run their credit. And there's nothing more disappointing than working your tail off to get a client, or you get a referral, or whatever the case might be, and there's a credit challenge. Typically at that point, guys, what ends up happening? Take a look at your last 5 turndowns. What did you do with those people? Really, it was the end of the road, right? Nothing ever happened because we didn't have anywhere to take them. Okay, so yes, we'll put together a special program for consultants. So what I like to look at this is called a delayed gratification pipeline. You're opening an entirely new pipeline with your credit challenge clients. So here's how it goes for me, Alan. If you and I can role play for just a second, and it's just going to be basically, you're my client and I'm working with you on a loan. Right now, you fail credit. So there's 2 scenarios. The first one is, hey, Alan, unfortunately, we had some, you failed the credit. Is there anything that you can do to go out and fix it and then come back and see me? Right? Isn't that it's kind of like you don't even know really what to say because you feel bad, they feel bad, the whole thing. So instead, this is how it goes now. Hey, Alan, unfortunately, we had some credit challenges trying to get you financed for the loan that you're looking for. However, I told you from the beginning that I was 100% committed to helping you get this loan. And I am 100% committed. And being that Sequoia has a special program that we've got a credit specialist on hand that can take a look at your credit for $1 and do an analysis on it to see what it's going to take to get you qualified for your loan. Would you like to take advantage of those services?
For $1, no brainer.
Yeah, exactly. So to get an analysis for $1 and to be able to tell them what it's going to take to get their credit cleaned up is, it's like a no-brainer, right? So in that conversation, I now take my mortgage hat off and I put my relationship cap on. Because now it's about helping you fix your credit, because I can tell you from experience that if I help Alan fix his credit and he qualifies and gets that loan, I will get more referrals from this guy than any 800 or 850 credit score that I slam dunked and walked away from. So the effort and the time it's going to take you, and once you get into the mode of this, it's 15 minutes a client. It literally, right, Alan? You've done a number of them. It's three quick steps, guys. If you know how to set up a Credit Karma account, you got step 1 done. It's texting a couple documents and having the client make their payment. That's basically about it. So now, hey, Alan, we've got a program that can help you get qualified. Would you like to take a look? Can we have a credit specialist analyze your credit for you and see what it would take to get you qualified? You say yes?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. Here's the 3 steps. And we're going to get all these to you guys. Alan's got a document that he can send to you. We've got this in a text message really quick. It's 3 steps. Credit repair submission. Step 1 is there's a website. My name is up on the screen. It's georgehartman.com. It's very simple. This takes your client directly to Identity IQ, which is exactly like Experian.com. It's a consumer credit reporting website, Identity IQ. So georgehartman.com, they set up their profile for $1. They get a username and password, and that information gets sent over to me to where I can now analyze their credit. We analyze it. We create a document that's a complete education and has their credit broken down in the document. So there's nothing more important than that they'll probably receive in their entire life about credit that's in that very first document, and they've only spent $1. To set up the credit report, it's a 7-day trial, one of the 7-day trials that they have. It's $1 for 7 days. We can take a look at it. Now it's up to me to make a decision. Is this worth it? Like, can we get this client there? Can we get results for this client, right? So I make that decision because we don't take on clients that we can't help, and what I found is we can help every client if they're willing to go through what it's going to take to fix their credit. So we're going to make that very clear in that very first email that goes back to them. So literally I've spent 2 minutes explaining it to you, right, Alan? Then we go over to the computer. I open up my laptop and I go to georgehartman.com. Okay, Alan, Woo, what's your address? Right? Set it all up. Let's answer the security questions and email or text me the login information. Then if I'm at my computer, literally within 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you'll get the analysis back. Definitely within the same day. They usually always happen same day. Then what happens is the client says, yes, I'm ready to go. Now, based on the credit is what's going to determine the cost. And the cost is going to be anywhere between $600 and $1,000, which is half of what most companies charge. Now, most companies charge $1,500 to only work on the negative items.
Yep. Credit
repair companies only work on the negative items. They don't coach your client in all these other areas of the credit report, because I can tell you I have 60% of my clients qualify for their loans and we never remove a single negative item. It's because of all the other areas that are even more important than sometimes even old bad credit. Now, we all want to have completely clear credit reports. That's the only way to maximize your scores, but there's many ways to get your client to qualify for the loan, right? And I'll say, hey, Alan, look, I want to let you know, and this is a mortgage thing. Alan will talk more about this, but if you've got a client that's, 650 is the minimum score, right? Well, yeah, we want to get them the loan, but we also want to get the second loan, right? So, hey, Alan, you know what? This is what we got to do. Boom, boom, boom. We'll get you qualified for this first loan. However, my program's a year long, right? We're going to continue to work on your credit every 40 days for 1 year. And guess what we're going to do a year or two from now? Once your credit hits the 700 or 750 mark, then we're going to refinance your loan. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So again, there's only 3 steps to my program. Literally, you have somebody that fails financing. Hey, Alan, unfortunately, we had some credit challenges. Guys, hopefully you wrote that down. It's just a very nice, we got some challenges. We didn't fail. It's not over. We're going to continue to do this, but now I need your participation. Are you ready to get your credit back up to 700 or 750? Are you ready to be coached and be able to get this loan? Because that's what we're going to do for you. And then take them through the 3 steps. Alan, I'm going to turn it back to you, maybe for some questions, or is there anything I didn't clarify that we,
Yes, let me start asking some questions that from my end, that I hear often, right? So the first question is that how long does it take to fix my credit?
Okay, so that is going to be that's a very broad question, because especially until we see their credit. Okay, now the other thing is, it's going to depend on what they're willing to do based on the instructions, right? So my thing is every 40 days. So let's say, Alan, let's say you signed up today. It takes 15 minutes. You do your thing. We do the analysis. You send me your step 2 is the driver's license and an address document, right? Text those over, and then the client makes the payment. Okay, at that point, we start our first 40-day cycle. So the credit bureaus have exactly 30 days to respond to our communication. So we have to give a couple days on the front and a couple days on the back, because they still go by snail mail, to make sure that we're getting our results. Now, every 40 days, guys, you and your client will receive an update. So it's not just the client. You are completely connected to that client all the way through my process, so that we make sure that you're on top of it, you're following up with them, because guess what I'm doing at the same time? Hey, Alan, I'm just giving you a call back. It's 40 days now. Here's your, I emailed you. I'm on the phone with you. And oh, by the way, Alan, anybody else that might be in your center of influence that's looking to do anything, from a loan standpoint, whether they're looking to buy a house or maybe get some commercial lending, that have some credit challenges, that might want to, might want some help. And I end up pulling in referrals. And if those referrals come from your referral, that's your loan. So we work, the pipeline ends up reversing itself as we start to fill this pipeline. So the answer to that question is very open, Alan, because there's so many factors that have to go into it. So try not to ever, I made the mistake one time of making a promise to somebody, and in the credit world, you just can't do it. There's no book, there's no manual, there's nothing that tells us, hey, if you do this, this is exactly what's happened, what happens. So we're in a reactive business. We have to send it in, and then when they send us the results, we have to react to those and do what's next to take care of that challenge.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay, very good. I see another question right here from Margaret. She's asking, what is the special fee for Sequoia members? Not Sequoia members, but Sequoia clients.
For
so you
Sequoia
mentioned about
clients,
600 to 1,000.
Yeah, typically we're at $14.99, and so for the Sequoia clients, it's going to be between 600 and 1,000. Just depends on how bad the credit is.
Right. Well, guys, just want to let you know the reason that George can give us that price is because first of all, we know each other for a long time. We have that trust built up already. We send George a lot of volumes. So again, I mean, this is a long-term relationship, and that is another benefit for coming through Sequoias to getting a lot of these services. So again, Margaret is between 600 to 1,000, depending on how bad the credit report looks like. So Mark Miller is asking, how much is the monthly fee for the client who subscribed to the service?
Okay, great question. Sorry, I missed that. Great question. So the total fees, which is step 3, is somewhere between 600 and 1,000 is the fee for the credit repair. That covers a whole year. The monthly fee is a third party $29.99, and that's Identity IQ. Okay, just like if you signed up for Experian.com, so that we pass that on to the client. Now, here's something to understand why we do that, because as long as we're all on the same page, this is an easy one. If you work with other credit repair companies, typically most credit repair companies now do work on a monthly charge. Okay, 2 things I don't like about that. Number 1 is they're billing people on their credit card, raising their credit card balances. Number 2 is if somebody's paying monthly for credit repair services, why would they be motivated to finish the job? Right? Because they're getting the monthly fee. So most companies make your client fax, mail, or scan and send all of their mail that comes to them through this process. Then it could be outrageous, the amount of mail, right? So the instruction is normally go to your mailbox and send me everything that comes in your mail. Guys, for $1 a day, I don't need your client to do anything. We don't have to rely on the client for nothing, because every 40 days I can log into their account, hit the refresh button. I get 100% of the results every 40 days. There is no, oh, well, the client didn't do this, or we haven't gotten this yet. And it's not a bunch of games. Every 40 days you get results. This is what the credit report is saying, and this is the instructions on how to fix it. So it's very, very dialed in. So the fee, whether it's 600, 700, 800, that'll be on the invoice, and then $29.99 a month Identity IQ. They can cancel that when they're finished. However, a good majority of my clients, because I train them, why fix your credit? Why get back into a 700 credit score only to drop your credit insurance, which is Identity IQ or another service of that type that insures your credit for $1 million, right? It's the most important financial tool that you possess, your credit. Let's protect it. Not only that, every quarter clients get another full analysis with instructions every quarter when they're using Identity IQ. So hopefully that makes sense.
Great, thank you so much. The next question is that do you offer any payment plans?
We don't. We could split the payment is the most that we can do. We've never been set up on a payment type program. We can split the payment with 30 days in between the first payment and the second payment.
Okay, got it. Next question is that do you cherry pick, or does it address all negatives at once?
All negatives at once.
Okay, very good. That is a short answer. Another one from Gigi. You said there were 5 sections of a credit report. Not clear what those are. Can you repeat? Is that in the Word document that you sent me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you again, just for the education purpose, can you repeat that 5 sections one more time?
Yes, on-time payments, credit cards, so accounts, inquiries, mortgage. Okay, that was another one that we didn't cover. And what was the fifth? More. I'm going blank at the moment. Oh, the authorized users.
Okay. So again, we do have a Word document from George that we are going to upload to our folders so you can download. Okay. From last question is what if they already have identity IQ referral link? If they already have the link.
If they're already set up as a client, we just need the username and password and the last 4 of the SS.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, you have step 1 already completed. It just makes it easier, and then all I'll need is a photo of a driver's license and an address document and the payment. So it makes it really simple.
Very good. Another question: is it difficult to remove or repossession of your credit report?
Yes, it is.
Can you
Yeah,
can you address that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason I answer like that, and I don't mean to be sarcastic, but when we're looking at mortgages, repossessions, or let's just say straight out charge-offs. Okay. If these bad accounts go through different time frames. So when you go 30 days late on account, 60 days, 90 days, if you look at credit reports long enough, you'll see they go 150 days and then they charge off. Now, when it charges off, let's just use Citibank for an example. Let's say I have a Citibank card that I let go. First, I'm going to get the late payments. Then I'm going to get the charge off. Now, the charge off, if it's still with Citibank, when I go to address it, I can settle that account, and typically I can settle it for 50 cents on the dollar. However, most likely that's going to be a very difficult removal. However, I still need to settle it. I need to close it. I need to be able to start from this point forward. And you guys know, as mortgage brokers, if somebody's got an open collection in the last 2 years, typically, and I don't know what all the conditions are these days, but typically the lender is going to say this is one of the conditions, that this has to be settled or paid, right, before they'll close on a new loan. However, if it goes to charge off, it's tough to get that removal. But if it goes to collection, since COVID, most of these accounts can be settled for 50 cents on the dollar, and they offer a deletion letter. So now we can start getting those deletions. Okay, so every account goes through a little bit something different that even us in the mortgage business don't really know, right? But now we're going to be able to tell the client, this is exactly what's going on and exactly how you can take care of this particular account.
Okay. Now, what about the repossession or charge off was 10 or 15 years ago?
10 or 15 years. Yeah, there's a 10-year statute of limitation on anything that's big like that: bankruptcy, repossession, mortgage, that you go bad on a mortgage, foreclosure, any of those bigger things. The others are 7 years. Does the 600 to 1,000 all have to be paid up front? We can split that.
Okay. Great. Well, definitely there's a lot of wealth of information. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is recorded, and just like usual, we will post it to our YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. So every time when we upload a new video, YouTube is going to notify you so that you don't have to ask us. Okay. Any last minute questions for George before he leaves?
Alan, I got one thing to add back to you. Everybody that has a turn down, that goes to you, Alan, or where does that go to before it comes to me? You want to explain how that kind of works with Sequoia?
Yeah. So again, this is how it works, right? So when you in Sequoia, we have you all have your own website. So go to the product page. There, it's there's a link called credit repair. So once you enter the information on credit repair, we at the headquarters is going to receive an email. You as the loan consultant will also receive a notification email as well. Okay. So once we looked at it and, based on the credit score, we're going to respond to you and your client together and let them know that, hey, based on this information, your credit score such and such, and estimated cost would be somewhere between $600 to $1,000. So if you are agreed to move forward, please respond to us. And at that time, then we will notify George, and George will go out there to communicate with your client. So please make sure that you let your client know, because when we will notify you, when your client's ready to move forward. So please make sure that your client picked up the phone from George, or return the messages or whatsoever. We do receive a lot of inquiries, and we many clients saying that, hey, nobody contacted them. But actually, for every single one we send it to George, he will contact these people. So again, obviously, we cannot keep calling them, if they don't pick up the phone. We also have Maria. She's our support team. Our Maria will also contact clients and let them know that, hey, you receive messages and so on and so forth. So Maria will text your client and also email your client. So again, we have a lot of support right here to make sure that your client receives the message. So again, it's your jobs to communicate with the client as well to make sure that they receive the message. Okay. Now, do you have trade lines? Do you add trade lines? George?
I don't particularly deal with trade lines. I tell you what, it's been very, very few, and there have been them that we have not been able to, either find a family and friend or thing like that. Because the reason I like people to look within their family or a friend is they don't have to spend $400 or $500 on a trade line, from somewhere else, even $800 or $1,000 for a trade line that they might only need for 3 months, right? We might only throw a trade line on there long enough to close their loan and then pull the trade line off. Now, there's all kinds of trade line companies out there. I'll be honest with you, I've never found one that I could really 100% trust with trade lines. And that's why I'd rather have somebody that they knew.
Okay, great. Okay, so it looks like that's all the questions that we have. Thank you so much for everyone to attend in another episode of Sequoia Training. So this is what we offer as a Sequoia member. Not just the wealth of knowledge, but also a way for us to help our clients so that they can get the funding that they need. Okay, so next week is going to be a big week for us. Okay, so many of you already saw on our Facebook that we start to promote what we call Sequoia Investment, meaning that yes, we funded a lot of the builders, and now many of these builders would like to unload their property, and they would like to unload the property at cost. Okay, so we just came back from McAllen, Texas, and we picked up 3 properties under Sequoia for $140,000 each. This is incredible. But anyway, our goal is to purchase, I would say, about 1,000 units for the next 5 years. And we have the ability to do so. But how do we do that? And what about you as a Sequoia member? What benefit do you have as a Sequoia member? So next Wednesday, our Sequoia advisor, Mr. Jason Song, he is the head of Sequoia Investment, will be here to talk specifically about Sequoia Investment, how you and I can participate in the purchase of these properties. So let's say you only have a 10,000, 20,000, you cannot purchase the entire property. Can you buy a percentage of that property? That is what we're going to talk about. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so that's all we have for tonight. And if there's no further questions, we will see you next Wednesday. So again, submit that loan, 1 to 4 unit, you got half point extra on top of your commissions. So let's go out there and get some business done. So good night, everyone. See you next week. Thank you so much, George.
Thank you, Al.
Good night.